Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are taking a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Batman. Knightfall version of Batman, a fan favorite for sure, unless you hate the blue look and then you probably don't care for it. But this is a popular look for Batman, and it's a figure that many people have touted as the best Batman figure ever to be made, at least by McFarlane Toys. Now those are two very different things. I'm gonna just ignore that first part, but as far as the by McFarlane Toys part, it's very possibly true. There's gonna be some stuff to talk about, good and bad, as we get into the review, but it is a solid release, so if you're looking for a good Batman figure, make sure you stick around. This one might just do the job for you. So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. Really quick, before we get to the figure, I know a lot of you like to see my package, so I'm showing it briefly, and that's mostly because in this review it's relevant, particularly because there are a few different looks for Batman throughout the Knightfall run. This one has the long ears, the darker blue, the darker gray. There are lighter blue and lighter gray versions, so I don't mind the color thing that much. We'll talk about that briefly, but the artwork they chose definitely doesn't match the figure in the package, which is very strange. Okay, so this guy, let's go ahead and get a measurement out of the way. He stands to the top of his head just shy of 7 1/4 inches. That's not counting his bat ears, and that's going to make him just about, well, 18.5 centimeters, a little bit shy of that. Here he is up against Darwin, clearly out of scale because he's in a different scale. All right, question of the day. For your Batman preferences, not going blue or black because that's an easy debate to have. I mean, everybody has a very strong opinion on that. I want to know, how do you feel about long ears or short ears or medium ears? For me, I tend to prefer the medium look, though there are some instances where I do like the long or the short, but if I had to pick, I would just go with medium, similar to this look. Okay, so as I was mentioning the aesthetic, there are different looks for him. This doesn't quite match any of them. They did make him kind of... It's not as bad as they normally do, so don't get me wrong, but they made him kind of sloppy looking. I think that's the right way to put it. He's got enough bulk, I think, especially for the Knightfall run. He wasn't particularly bulky in most artwork. In some of them, he's kind of thick, but his muscles just are not well enough defined and well enough shaped. He's got a lot of wrinkles throughout his suit, which makes it look like his suit is baggy on him, and that does not look right. If you look at his armpits, his chest, his abs, his elbows, his crotch, there's a lot of wrinkling going on this guy, and it does make him look less muscular, less powerful. I do think the mass is generally there, though. It's mostly good, but just more defined muscle shapes. Like the bicep, I know it's elongated right here, so it wouldn't be curved, but it's an action figure, so when you bend the arm, it needs to have some curve, so you need to find like a happy middle ground. He's got very flat biceps, very ill-defined musculature, especially throughout the legs, and I'll post the reference image so you can see one that particularly matches the look that McFarlane decided to go with. Not the long-eared one, this one. And you can see he's way more defined in the comics, so it would have been nice if McFarlane went that route. Also, I would personally like to see a less yellow-gray and a slightly darker gray, even for this particular look. I think it would have been better. And then probably less saturation and a little bit darker blue, kind of like the Comic-Con version. But even still, a light gray would be fine if it didn't have the yellow to it, but that's not that big of a deal. Okay, that's the bad stuff out of the way, most of it anyway. Good stuff is, it is outside of the Speeding Bullets Batman/Superman and the As-Bat figure. This is probably the best, no, definitely is the best proportioned Batman figure to come from McFarlane Toys. It's really good overall. There are a few caveats. One being that if you don't wedge his shoulders all the way up, his arms seem a little bit long, and he has not that much muscle mass going on in the traps, so he's got a very square thing going on with not much neck, so in terms of thickness, so it's a little bit weird looking. The pecs, there's a lot of mass up here at the front and not right here, so he does kind of have a weird shape going on, and I think that's throwing it off quite a bit. You have to have a little bit more mass over here, or he's got kind of a moob thing going on, just a little bit. Now that you've seen it, you probably won't be able to unsee it. But yeah, little tweaks like that in the sculpt would have made this guy look a whole lot better, especially since you can't bring the arms across the chest anyway. There's nowhere for them to go. You can definitely bring your pec out a little bit more, square it off some, and it'll look so much better than having it come... Like, yeah, everybody has different shaped muscles to some degree, but generally speaking for superheroes, you don't bring the pecs all the way into the middle and give them some kind of pinched boob type thing. So yeah, there are a little bit of problems here and there, but generally speaking, it's a much better looking Batman figure than we have seen in the past. We have the appropriate colors on the arms. It's fairly consistent, no shading anywhere. In fact, very little paint. This appears to be painted, which is surprising, but they painted the yellow and it's pretty good. This is, obviously there's some paint on there, but it's a separate piece, so it's nice and clean. And then let's look at the head, because that does have some paint on it. I think the mouth and face area, that's a pretty good job, the way they did it. There is some color on the lips, but nothing that stands out, so it looks very natural. The eyes look a little bit weird, I think because the way they're sculpted, they're a little bit proud. They sit kind of forward on the face. And so there's something flat about the way the eyes are sculpted, which is a little bit weird, and maybe it's the shape they chose to go with the tampography, but they do look generally pretty good, and the head sculpt's probably the best traditional Batman head sculpt they've done so far. So very pleased overall with the look of this guy. I will mention the cape briefly. It's not symmetrical, but it's fairly balanced. It does stick to one side a little bit. I don't mind that. The sculpt, it's good up here for sure. Down here, it's a little bit lacking. Like, that's just a tiny little thing, but the way it's got this big lump right here, just not as appealing. You don't want to... I mean, this is a very tiny thing, let me be clear, but as somebody who has sculpted capes before, I personally don't like to see a lump like this. I like to see the lines kind of continue forward with curves, like most of them, except for that one that looks like a foot in a sock. Do you get what I'm saying? Maybe you don't. It's just a minor thing. It's just weird to not have it be a little bit more flowy right there. But yeah, it looks pretty good. It almost looks like there's shading in it. I don't think there is, but I think it's... Maybe there is. Let me... Hang on. I really don't think there's shading. It did look like it because of the ridges and the shadows, but I don't think so. So anyway, yes, it is a very good looking Batman, especially compared to McFarlane's other Batman figures. This blows them all out of the water, not counting Speeding Bullets and Asbat. So as far as the aesthetic goes, 8 out of 10. It's really good. I could do 9. For McFarlane Toys, 9 out of 10. Definitely some issues here and there, but it is really, really nice, and by far the best Batman other than those two to date. All right, now as far as accessories go, you'll be happy to know he does come with 2 fist hands. Then he gets 2 gripping hands, which are not trigger finger hands, so that's kind of cool. Then he does get the blue Batarang. I don't remember if his Batarang's blue in this series. I'm guessing it's actually black, but whatever. Can he hold it well? I don't know. I'll check later and add a yes or a no in there. But that's it for accessories, not counting the card, which has the wrong artwork on it, which makes no sense at all. Talk about being lazy. Yeah, the wrong card. And then his super trusty display stand, which is worthless. So accessories, it's still like a 7. It's nothing special. It's just the bare minimum, realistically speaking. Okay, so let's talk about the articulation. The head is on... Well, I'm not going to force it. It's a double ball peg as far as I can tell. That's what they usually are. Yeah, that's what it is. So he can lean and turn at the same time. He can look down only that far. It's not the best double ball peg we've seen, even from McFarlane Toys. He does look up pretty nicely, so it's not bad. It's going to be better range than most figures, I would say, but definitely could be a little bit better. But it's okay. For the shoulders, you do get some play on that shoulder ball that's inside the chest, but not a ton. Not a ton. And you do want to keep those arms up pretty high, or they're going to seem a little bit long for sure, and he gets kind of a droopy look. But that's only going to be a big deal in a very neutral pose. So as far as the hinge goes, it's about horizontal, and then you can get a little higher on that ball peg, so that's good. You're going to get your full rotation, not counting where the cape is. Mine came pinched, by the way, in the packaging, but you should be able to just hit that with a hairdryer, and it should be okay. All right, so bicep swivel is fine, no problems there. They didn't leave it sculpted on the arm. I like that. They smoothed it out. Double jointed elbow works nicely. That's good. Then we have the ball hinge wrist, which is sculpted and quite large, so you're going to get really good range out of that wrist. More than you'll ever need, but it's there. Side note, some of these parts are new. I do think some of the parts are reused, but I'm not positive, but it also doesn't really matter. There's nice consistency throughout. You don't see a whole lot of wrinkling in the lower legs and arms underneath the... Well, I guess you have some here. So yeah, it's pretty consistent overall, so I don't really care if there are a few reused parts. It works well together, so I don't really care. I didn't bother going back to look because it doesn't matter. All right, so wrists are good. Torso, upper joint, leans back very nicely. That's wonderful. If you need him to lean back, he can do that. Now, if you want him to lean forward, Literally no range going forward beyond that. That is as far forward as this joint can go. Side to side. Ay, not good. Almost no range side to side at the top. A little bit of the bottom went, so there. Almost no side to side at the top. You do get rotation out of it though, so that's good. Now let's check the lower torso. It does lean back a little bit. There's a cut right there, which is unfortunate. A seam right above the belt. This is going to do all the leaning back that you really want to do. This helps a little bit, so that's good. Going forward at the lower part, still almost nothing, so he can barely lean forward. I don't understand why these companies are doing that. And then leaning to the side is really nice when you get the bottom part involved, so that's good. And then of course you do get more rotation down there, so it's not a bad torso other than leaning forward. It really can't do that. For the hips, kind of a problem. You cannot bring them together, and there's no good reason for it. I don't think it's just the blue plastic, because that's... Oh no, it's fairly rigid right there. So it's soft, but there's enough meat down here in the crotch. His crotch meat is definitely getting in the way here for these legs, because I tried to... Maybe I can do that. Let's see, I tried it earlier, and I couldn't get it to go. Yeah, I still can't get the legs any closer than that, which is okay, but it would be better if there was a little bit less meat and you could do it. But let's see, going out to the side... Works pretty well. The joint's not strong enough to fight the diaper on this side, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Going forward, I'm a little hesitant. Let's see. Yeah, it's not great. The diaper's still very restrictive, so that kind of sucks. Going backwards, you do get a little bit of range. The cakes will stretch, so that's okay. Thigh swivel, it goes inward, which is just about worthless. Going out, you don't get any. Very strange. Very ugly knee joint. Let's see what kind of range we get. Yeah, it's pretty good. And the proportioning's not bad. It's not absolutely perfect, but you can see mostly if you were able to get them in line. The hip is just about at the bottom of the belt, I would say, a little bit lower maybe. And the foot's only a little bit taller than that if they were equally lined up. So proportioning's not terrible, so that's okay. Ankles go all the way back and all the way forward, still heavy ratchets, so that's kind of annoying and a nuisance. But you do get good range out of them, and they are sculpted, so if you like that, that's good. And then the toe joint is well enough placed. It's a little bit too far back, and it's not the best looking toe joint we've ever seen, but it's not super floppy, so it's acceptable. Okay, so articulation rating on this guy, it's not impressive, it's acceptable. I'll give it a 7. There's nothing noteworthy going on here that's good, and nothing too noteworthy that's bad, because like the torso leans really well back but then not forward at all, so I'm just going to call that a wash. Yeah, I definitely would like the hips to be a little bit more conducive to bringing the legs in. His package could definitely have more package up front and then kind of cut away behind the package, if that makes any sense. Like trim out right here, right behind where his bulge would be, then you'd get the legs in closer. At least in a standing pose. And I'd like to be able to have him stand with his legs straight down, but it's not bad. So yeah, articulation's a 7. And now it's time for the cake rating. His cakes are... Well, they're not the worst cakes we've seen. There's not a whole lot of mass there. They're well enough shaped, so that's okay, but they're a little pancakey, so I'm only going to give them a 5 out of 10 for the cake rating. It's just not impressive, which is unfortunate for probably the best Batman figure we'll see in a long time. So, okay, time for a final verdict on this guy. Is it the best Batman figure ever? Probably not, technically speaking. You might like it the most, in which case that's fine, because it is a good enough figure. I mean, realistically, even if it's a horrible figure and you like it, that's fine. But these are reviews, so I have to try to keep it on the facts and not on personal preference. So yeah, it's a solid enough release for sure, technically speaking. Personally, I like it a whole bunch. I'd like to see some things improved, but compared to the other ones that they've released, this blows them all out of the water for a traditional Batman. It's not even close. I'm going to give this guy an overall rating of 9 out of 10. Definitely one of the strongest releases from McFarlane Toys. Proportionally speaking, it makes a big difference when things are right. And that's good. So, yeah, I like it a whole bunch. I think you will too. If you can track one down, try to do so. And good luck. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. In the meantime, keep collecting.